Hello, welcome back to the newsroom here on France 24, live from Paris. I'm joined here in the studio by James Creedon, our media correspondent for the Nightly Media Watch. Hi there, James.
Good evening, Catherine.
So first up, we've got a little bit of political intrigue.
Yes, it's a new book that has hit the newsstands. Well, I think it's not out just yet, but the Express magazine has given the highlights. And if we go to the computer, I'll show you the front page of the book. It's called On Fire and in Tears.
Sounds
very
dramatic.
Doesn't it? Roselyne Bachelot, she's a former minister. She was health minister. She had several portfolios in the last 5 years. And she's kind of sticking the knife into Nicolas Sarkozy quite interestingly. Now, just before we get to the juicy bits, I did notice that there were several other books called On Fire and in Tears over the last number of years, not to be confused with these covers, I just might add.
Roselyne Bachelot is not a knight or a cowboy.
She's not a knight or a cowboy, even though she has drawn her guns to some extent. So I'll give you some of the top quotes concerning Angela Merkel. She said she quoted him as saying, "She's very nice, you know, Angela. When she likes a film, she sends it on to me. Even she's not very well dressed, and there are her awful jackets, but she's not ugly, you know." I'm not sure that's
what a lovely backhanded compliment, right. Nicolas Sarkozy.
I think if you say somebody is not something awful, it's never really a compliment, really.
Not delightful.
He goes on to say that she prefers to take her breakfast at the buffet downstairs and not in the bedroom because you get more to eat. All sorts of other kind of strange details about Angela Merkel's preferences that I'm sure she would have rathered would remain private. Elsewhere, she's also very critical of how Nicolas Sarkozy tended to monopolise all the limelight around himself to the, I suppose, detriment of his ministers. She said, "He has reduced me once again to a decorative candle, confiscating me anything to say." And she went on also on the same theme to say that it's incredible the way he has sidelined his ministers as if we were infected with the plague which he himself injected us with.
Oh gosh, so that's so strong. She obviously doesn't think she's ever going to be a minister again. She's just ruined her own chances.
Not under him anyway. Apparently she's closer to François Fillon, the former Prime Minister, who is in a slightly different current of the French political right. So maybe she thinks she's allowed to say this now that Sarkozy's
maybe she's currying favour with Sarkozy's enemies. Who knows? Interesting stuff.
And just one more detail. This guy, let's take a look at his photo. Henri Guianot. Now he was, it's a pretty bad photo of him. He was never elected, as far as I'm aware, and he was a speechwriter for Nicolas Sarkozy, and she was shocked to see the power that this guy thought he had. He said, at one particular meeting, he said, "I got Chirac elected in 1995, I got Sarkozy elected in 2007, I'm going to get him elected again in 2012, and it'll be me in 2017.
Oh my word.
So she was pretty appalled at that, and I'm sure most of France is now, that she's shared it with France and the world.
People who don't like Nicolas Sarkozy are going to enjoy this book, in short.
Exactly.
Okay, well, let's cross the channel then with David Cameron causing a stir, talking about French tax exiles who want to get away from the French taxes that are going to go up.
That's right. And this was a reference to François Hollande's shock announcement that the French wealthy people will be taxed at 75% for earnings over $1 million. In any case, Cameron said he'd roll out the red carpet to them. Very, entente cordiale, not sort of spirit. So Slate.fr, the website, has come up with a little guide for French people who want to leave the country. Oh. Now they've thought of students who are going to go away and do their studies. They've thought of people who might want to leave the country for all sorts of different reasons. But they've given a very long section on people who want to avoid tax and where they might be best advised to go. How very helpful of them. And so they pointed out that if you are super rich, the place to go is Switzerland, as I suppose everybody kind of knows culturally. But be careful, because if you're just moderately rich, it's no good, apparently.
It's very expensive, Switzerland.
That's right. And apparently it's only good if you have a fortune, an absolute fortune of money. If you're just moderately wealthy, go to London. Apparently that's the place to go.
Also quite expensive, in my experience.
Quite expensive. But they don't have the famous wealth tax, the impôt sur la fortune that France have. So you might do a little bit better there. For inheritance tax, you can avoid that if you go to Spain or Italy, whereas you get a hefty whack over the wrist if you want to hand down your fortune to your children. So there you go. It's kind of bizarre to think that the French media are now also kind of chiming in behind David Cameron, saying, go and join David and his red carpet over in London. Maybe the
French ferry company is going to be pleased about people leaving the country.
Exactly.
Okay, well, something a little bit less serious now, but very serious for some people, of course.
Right.
A Hollywood heartbreaker.
That's right.
A high-profile breakup.
That's right, involving the French Vanessa Paradis. This is Johnny Depp and Vanessa Paradis who have announced officially that they will separate. It's been a massive source of conversation on social media today. Just some of the tweets that I'll show you, because I suppose there's a certain amount of voyeurism involved too. I don't want to live in a world where Johnny Depp and Vanessa Paradis can't work out their problems. I suppose a nod to the fact that they were seen as a couple who overcame the many challenges of stardom to stay together for 14 years, living in Paris, of course. I don't want to live in a world where Johnny Depp can't keep a girlfriend, perhaps saying that if...
It doesn't give hope to anyone else.
Right. But we don't know what's really going on there. Now, there is a serious side to this in the sense that they have very, very carefully guarded their privacy over the last 14 years. They've done a better job than most, as Le Figaro points out here. But is this the end of a very well organised or mastered PR, they point out? Because actually their daughter is tweeting like a mad teenager and has kind of let some cats out of the bag as to what's going on in the home. So it's a tough age to live in now if you want to keep things private at a time of upset like that.
Especially with you around, James Creed, and looking at everyone's Twitter. Thanks very much for that Media Watch update. We've got a little bit more on Vanessa Paradis and Johnny Depp for you coming up in our web news with other things that have been going on the internet. Take a look.